be your own boss. Like, I'm my own boss, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, I'm my own boss. Like, to be connected to source, I have to be very serious, you know? I think that's a big misconception. So then why do we have all these different experiences and things? For play, for fun. Having people that can reflect the truth to you, you know, is really important. So we have each other for a reason. If I was just in the ego and thought that you were something separate from me, and then we just fight, we're fighting for survival. Put it simply, the more I'm in a state of love, the more love that I'm able to give. Inspiration and fun are closely interlinked. The feeling of fun is, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Okay, here I am with Bryan Piergrossi. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Yes. And some of you may know this man. I've spoken with him on previous conversations. This is the 4th time.
Yes.
And now we get to be in flesh.
Yes.
Yes. See? It's not just pixelation. We're in flesh. We exist. This has been an unexpected encounter, actually, because I saw that Bryan had said that he was in Thailand, and then I reached out, and we happened to be very close in the same area. So here we are having a nice, transparent conversation. We don't know what will unfold. We've shared a few moments together today, so let's see what happens. Thank you for tuning in. All right. No pressure. How you feeling?
No pressure. I feel great. This island has been really inspirational. We've both been here for over a month or something. And yeah, it's been great to share some time with you in person.
Right.
And yeah, feeling good.
Yeah. So what's like, if I asked you what's most alive in you at the moment, you've obviously recorded a lot of podcasts yourself. You're doing a lot of conversations, you're touring around, you're sharing space, creating retreats for people. Like in this moment, what feels the most alive or the most relevant topic maybe?
I think this podcast realm is exciting. I think it's probably the most exciting medium that's happening right now because it's the most free.
Right.
You know, and you can just do whatever you want, stop it whenever you want, make it as long as you want, as short as you want.
Right.
Have people on, not have people on, talk about whatever you want. There's just a lot of freedom in this realm. And I think what you and I are value and appreciate that's really exciting is just authenticity and transparency and this medium allows for that.
Right.
You know, it's the closest thing that allows for that. I think it's really exciting. And I think people are longing for that. You know, we were talking a bit in the water about, you know, I think so many things now they're getting so polished and so pre-edited and pre-arranged, and that the life force, the vitality, the authenticity it's hard and hard to feel it. It becomes this prepackaged thing, you know, that has a little bit stale.
Right.
So I'm excited about things being unedited and things being unprepared and things being unrehearsed and things, you know, like I think there's a longing for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I appreciate that so much about the way you share. And your partner Dara did a concert the other night here, and you come up and just total spontaneous lyrics and rap and whatever's coming through you in the moment, and the crowd's into it, and I think that's where it's at right now, you know, just living our lives that way and leading our podcast that way, and inspiring and inviting other people to open up to this level of authenticity and be in the moment, deeper level of presence in the moment.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, that's nice. There's a few things popping as you're saying that. Is you spoke about this earlier about really allowing the moment to present its own inspiration to us. Right? It's like when we sort of get caught up in the doing or the to-do list, or I want to do this, or you describe something. If it's okay if I
moving from obligation to inspiration.
Right.
Yep.
Moving from obligation to inspiration.
Yeah.
And you said that. Can I refer to what you said?
Yeah.
So Bryan was telling me a story where it's great to have accountability partners. It's great to do stuff together and set goals and all that stuff. But he was feeling like he'd set a goal, and then it was almost as if like, I need to hit this goal, right? And you described it as being almost like pressure. You're pressuring yourself when actually you want to just, you already live.
There's even a phrase people use, like they use it from a sense of pride, like, be your own boss. Like, I'm my own boss, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, I'm my own boss. That means I'm telling myself what to do and making myself do stuff.
Right.
Even that can go, you know, where you're just totally alive to the inspiration of the moment.
Yeah. And not getting so fixed and stressed,
Yeah.
you know, and then pressuring yourself that you need to achieve something, and then missing the heavenly glory, as Bruce Lee would say, right? Look around, it's everywhere. So, you know, that's something that I feel is a great topic right now. The other thing that sparked from your introduction was it feels to me that there's really a yearning for people to be able to express themselves in that way that you said, which is unedited, unfiltered. And simultaneously, we have these platforms now online, Facebook and podcasts, and, you know, everyone's whatever got something to say, which is, we want to welcome that. And simultaneously, it feels like people are sometimes, or from my perspective, we're just like, you know, saying everything, getting it all out there, and it's just a whole like cacophony of just noise and content, and this is my opinion and my view, and look at me, and I did this and I did that, and that can get a little bit overwhelming and overstimulated. I don't know how what should be
people fighting for attention.
Right? Yeah. And then you got the sort of dance between the need for, which you and I have spoken about before, but the need to be seen, the need to be heard, the need to be recognized, validation, and then it's like, how do we, you know, look at or feel into how we're coming from, or this, we spoke about this as well, I'm just bringing this up, but we're coming from like, why are we offering ourselves in this way? Why am I creating this podcast and this video?
Why are you creating this podcast?
Right. No, that's a great question, right?
Yeah.
Why am I creating it? So let's feel into that. So one reason, simple, very, I enjoy our conversations, right? That's the first thing that pops up. When I met you in person, I was like, sort of one of the first things that came to me was like, wow, we've met online a lot and recorded conversations, and now we can record one in person.
Yep.
So that's like sort of the general. The other is that there's a part of me that still wants everyone to be able to speak their truth. Mm-hmm. There's a sort of desire in me that I feel that communication is seemingly very complex, but it's also very simple. And to speak for myself, of course, throughout the years, we get all these beliefs and these ideas of what's acceptable, what's socially acceptable, what's not acceptable. And what I want to continue to create is this space where we can just share whatever we feel comfortable and consensually, willing to in the moment. And through us sharing whatever's going on for us and showing up in as authentic as the camera can show and we can show today, that gives permission to others out there to go, wow, I can do that, or I can show up like that. So it's like a sort of invitation. I find these conversations are an invitation. And then lastly, because I'd love to hear what you sparked from this, is I listened to a beautiful documentary some years ago, 2011 or 12, and the Dalai Lama was speaking in there. And in there he said that this would be a decade of conversation, and that through authentic conversations, we would be able to decipher and allow the truth to come through. But when we're showing up, like you described earlier, when we're trying to polish ourselves or act or perform something, we're not actually, even if I'm interviewing you, it's a very different vibe than if we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
And I loved what he said. And at the time, I just started Simon on the Sofa. And I was like, yes, I just want to create more conversations. Everybody just share what's going on inside of you. And then that actually brings out a much more authenticity. So that's some reasons.
I think there's a difference between a performer and an artist. And the artist is looking for that authenticity and that sense of creating something that comes from this depth of inside themselves and expressing it in the world that is like, it's like kind of like I've been looking a little bit like fractals, holograms, things, holes within holes, and it's like you're creating this beauty that is a kind of a hologram of the larger beauty, of this universe. That's really, I never really said it like that before, but it's kind of like, I think the intention of like, I feel like what I do, and I feel like what you do too, is it's like you're creating something that's in harmony and expresses this larger inherent beauty that's moving through everything. And when I feel into like, why am I doing this podcast? It's like, I'm thinking inspiration and fun are closely interlinked. It's like, well, it feels like it's fun and I'm inspired to do it. And I think when we're in a state of, I think we underrate or undervalue the importance of fun and inspiration.
Right.
It's like you want to help people, you want to benefit people. If you're in a state of inspiration and fun, I can tell you as a listener to a podcast, if people are in a great state of inspiration and fun, I'm like, thank you. I'm feeling the energy of this. You know, feels great.
Right.
You know, it's like it's almost healing in and of itself to just have that energy of inspiration and fun and playfulness and joy and laughter. And, you know, we had that together. And then we're sharing that for whoever, you know, whatever synchronistic way people are coming to this, that they can feel the energy of this, you know, too.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, you know?
Yeah, sharing the joy. Yeah, totally.
Because there's this thing of like, well, I have to give people the 5 steps or the 7, you know, there's this thing I have to give them. But it's like, if you're giving people inspiration and fun, that's a state change that you're transmitting that allows people to open to magic and miracles and insights and new ways of seeing things and shifting consciousness that you just can't access when you're in this kind of low, heavy, serious, you know, state.
Right. And so you're sparking something actually by our beautiful friend Eric is filming us today, and we were playing actually just a couple of weeks back when we went to play squash, and we hadn't played before ever, and we were playing squash and we were having fun and we were like exerting ourselves and so on. And then Eric was doing showing me some backflips in a fun way. It's just this sparking right now, and I filmed them. He was showing me how to do these flips on this you know, these crash mats. And actually afterwards we were saying the same thing. It's like, when we're in that state of joy, when we're having fun, when we're playing, I can't remember the exact word he used, but we were talking.
Shout it out, Eric. Shout it out.
What was it? You remember?
I think it's the state of elation and excitement. It's the state of excellence.
Yes.
And effortlessness.
Yes, that's it. I don't know if you heard that. So the
Flow state.
Yeah, the state of
excellence and effortlessness.
Yeah. When we're playing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, and I think that's what you're pointing to, right? And in that, that's contagious, right? You know, when you see whoever you see, if you see somebody doing an amazing, we were watching this young boy the other week in a restaurant in Thailand, and this boy was just doing backflips. His family was sat down. We were across from the other restaurant, and he was just, I don't know how long we were there. We were there about an hour, and he was like literally just boom. And I was like, man, look at this guy. And he was fascinated, and seeing his joy in just like you used to call it flow state, but being in that present state as well, because flow state is presence, right?
Yep.
They're sort of one in the same. And he was just in that, and I was, you know, from across the way, drawn to that. You see that? So I feel that there's a contagiousness in that, and that's aliveness. Yeah.
I think it's when we're actually when we're most connected to, if you want to call it God or source, as well, you know, and I think that's a big misconception. Certainly, if I can be by myself and get really quiet and still, and there's a connection there, but there's a lightness in that energy that's the same as the light. That's like a lightness from a still place. This is the lightness from a flow.
Right.
And ultimately, just like love and freedom are the exact same thing. Ultimately, flow and stillness take you to the exact same place.
Exactly.
But I think people think that, oh, to be a spiritual person and whatever that even means. I mean, we can question what that even means, but to be connected to source, or connected to God, or connected to this higher intelligence, I have to be very serious, you know? It's not the case. Like, I think it's like, you know, the laughter and the fun and the playfulness, I think that is the state of God, that is the state of awakening.
Right.
Because you start to realize that everything is of the same divine essence. So then why do we have all these different experiences and things and stuff and Eric and trees and for play, for fun, to see God in all these different expressions and forms, you know?
Yes. Which pops up with the first thing you said to me today. What did you say to me today? The first, when you're right.
John Lennon quote, which is, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yes, tell him your plans. Which then
him or her or it or they.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's not get caught up on gender right now.
Not right now.
That's a whole other topic. But there's I have this saying: simplicity is divinity. I've been writing it for many years, and this year I had this. I told you this earlier as well. There's like keywords or key phrases that I normally have for years ahead, sometimes for a month, whatever. But this year was Deaf Awareness, 2020, and also this really clearly was coming up. Keep it simple, right? It was this was like, okay, 2020. What does it mean for me? It's like Deaf Awareness and keep it simple. And when I think about it, they're sort of linked, because if we bring in the idea of play, exuberance, joy, we're here. Look how the universe plays with us. Look how everything. We were watching this bird. You know, this bird when it's mating and how it has to like show its colours and show its exuberance in order to get the mate. And Dara and I were looking at the peacock feathers, and because we have some peacock feathers, right, for stroking the body, and we were looking at the detail in this peacock feather, and I was like, wow, the colours are just, you know, immense, and how many of those that they have, and the texture. And it's like, you couldn't contemplate, you couldn't design this if you tried, if you sat here and tried to design what we're seeing. So I sort of said that, like, we're being shown all this beauty constantly. It's like the universe itself, the multiverse, whatever you want to call it, is playing with us. Yet for some reason, and you use the word seriousness, some reason, it's seriousness disease, I would call it, has really, you know, fed through our species, where we walk down the road, and sometimes if you smile at somebody, it's a bit like, oh, what does he want? What does she want, right? And especially if you see somebody laughing in the street, you'll probably think either, most people will go, what have they taken? Are they on drugs? You know, maybe they've drunk too much today, or they must be happy, but that's not normal, right? And I feel that, I don't know, maybe just in my life, but we can shift that, right? We can come back to that playful nature, come back to our childlike state, which when we talk about enlightenment or awareness or these sort of terms, I see that as the full circle anyway, no? This like full circle back to being a child again. The child mind is even a term, isn't that a term in Buddhism? Or
I love the phrase innocence consciousness.
Innocence consciousness, right?
Yeah, just absolute innocence of like, because I think a part of this, what I'm hearing you saying is like, part of this is, what does it mean to have fun? It's like, to me, it's like, really, the ultimate, the feeling of fun is, I don't know what's going to happen next, you know, which is the opposite of the average adult is like, I need to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what's going to happen next. You know, I want to control the situation. But this is where people talk about surrender, letting go, these different words are pointing at this sense of like, I don't know what's going to happen next. And that's fun.
Right.
You know, there's like a trust of, I'm just making myself available to be a channel for the universal creative intelligence to move through me in this moment.
Right.
And then in doing that, there's like a trust that leads me to the next moment. You know, and then just keep follow the bouncing ball, so to speak. You know, and it's kind of you know, I've been feeling this a lot like with music. It's almost like music. It's like you're just kind of
jamming.
You're moving with life.
Right.
You're dancing. Yeah, you're dancing with the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe for people listening, how does that play in your life? How do you, because you know you've written about, you know, the now moment and presence, and you share a lot about this. So how do you, or how did you, if you're always in that? I know sometimes maybe you also get pulled out of that, but how do you come back to play?
How do you come back to play? You know, I think there's a lot of different ways to answer that, but what comes to me now, sitting with you,
how is a crap question as well. How?
No, but having people that can reflect the truth to you. You know, it's really important. So that may be something like a coach or a mentor or a workshop, or I don't know, it could just be friends. It could be community. It can be people that you know are going to bring you back to the truth. You know, we had an interesting conversation at lunch. I don't know if you were still there for this part about how you can do this work in yourself, but ultimately, like, you do need other people to be a mirror, even if you're doing it within yourself, to reflect you back to yourself. You know, so we have each other for a reason. Right. You know, and I think sometimes it's just having that sense of like, what is this? Because if I lose sight of the reality of the nature of this, what this is all about, the essence of it, then I can get really serious. You know, but if I can get access to what's the truth of who I really am, what's the truth of who you really are, what's the truth of, you know, what I'm seeing, what I'm encountering, it's like, oh, it's the play of Leela, you know, it's God putting on different clothing, you know, and expressing itself in all different ways and forms. So tapping into that essence is the way to be in a state of playful and fun. And then the question is, well, how do you stay in that? Yeah. You know, and that's where I think having support of other people in our lives is, you know, is valuable.
Right. And when you say the truth of who we are, when we come into that, and what I hear you say like, okay, the truth of who we are is this play, right, Leela, this play of life, the mystery as well. The word that was popping up was mystery, right? So if we're accepting this mystery, right? We're accepting that. We're dropping our seriousness so that we can access that playfulness that we had naturally when we actually birthed into existence in the physical form, right? There's
And also,
playfulness.
really important point is it frees up the imagination when you're in this consciousness.
Right.
Yeah.
So we tap into our we free up our imagination again, which is
Vast,
right?
infinite,
Right, infinitely vast, and
yeah.
is open to whatever wants to birth through. And then simultaneously, there's a part of us that's, let's call it the serious part, what wants to work everything out, know everything, put everything into a sort of box. And I watched this great documentary where it said that, one part of the brain is like, activating exactly what you just described, the sort of, unknown, indescribable, part of all that ever was and so on. It doesn't need to be, and then you've got this other part of the brain that needs to put everything in a box in order for us to be here. Because, we need to call this a chair, even though it's not a chair.
Otherwise we couldn't move it over here.
We can't move it over here, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. So I don't know, maybe just to speak about, bringing the playfulness into that so that we're aware of those two aspects of the whole, and that we don't get too caught up on one side or the other, because we can also neglect, we can neglect one and be like, oh, well, it doesn't nothing matters, it doesn't care and all that. And that can become quite, especially with people that are maybe more in that space, they could feel really, what's the word? Disrespected in some way if we don't also acknowledge where everybody is in their own space. Does it make sense what I'm saying? Because
compassion, empathy.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to bring everybody into that idea of playfulness, but that doesn't mean that I just laugh at everything and it is all just a joke. On some level, it is all just a joke. But there are people experiencing a lot of pain, trauma, suffering, separation, and so on. I don't know what pops up for you.
A lot. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think the ego, right? Let's bring that word in. So the ego, I define it as an illusionary sense of a separate self. Right. The ego is very serious. The ego's not into fun, not into jokes, not into games. The ego is a very serious thing. If you take that, that's all you are. If I'm a separate person and I'm this little body and everything out here is separate from me, I'm afraid that you're gonna there's threats, and so it's very serious. But if you can recognize the essence of who you are is the infinite, and then you can still say this is a chair, this is my body, this is your body, but it's for play now. So we're really the infinite playing in the world of form, right? And that allows me, actually, I'd love to hear your reflection on this, but for me, it's a great question. It allows me to be more compassionate and have more empathy, because I now see you as a reflection of the essence of me, right? Where I recognize the true oneness. You're a reflection of me. So now I care about you, or I care about you, or whoever I'm encountering in this deeper way I ever could if I was just in the ego and thought that you were something separate from me. And then we just fight. We're fighting for survival. It's the dog eat dog is a saying that people have.
Right, exactly.
So, but we transcend that when we just realize that, oh, you're another reflection of the same essence that I am.
Right.
So I naturally, it's the deepest level of love and care.
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing as you speak is I'm sort of seeing that there's that sense of when we're younger, there's a sort of playfulness that happens, a very innocent playfulness that happens. Then we go into, adolescence, and then we start to supposedly become adults, and we sort of lose that sense of play. Or we play now and again, or we watch our children play, or we go to the game and watch games, right? We start to watch games as a sort of sense of play. And that can all become really serious because it's also coming from that sort of egoic sense of separateness that you're talking about. And then when we open up to the love again, when we truly open up to that innocence again, when we get a taste of that authentic play happens, right? And from that play, that's love at play. It's like real love at play, which is inclusive of all. That's what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
And in that inclusivity of all, you're playing. It's like everything's for you, not against you. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So you're playing with it. It's as if like you're in a team and all of a sudden there's one guy over there and he's not involved. And all of a sudden you bring him in and we're all playing together, right? It's like over there, we're just like, no, they're having fun, I'm not having fun. Actually, when we see ourselves as this whole, we're all playing together and we'll all have this contribution to aliven ourselves and enjoy the divine play. That's what I'm hearing anyway, which feels which also feels, I don't know if the people listening can get a sense of this, but if you can, it's like a maturity through awareness that allows you to really love life, love you as a whole being that plugs you into the collective wholeness. That's what it feels like anyway, in this moment.
And there's a common thing that people get caught up, I find, is should I care about myself or care about other people? You know, I'm conflicted because I want to care about myself, but I care about other people. And I think there's a space you go to where it's not two different things.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like the more that I can have myself, let's just use the term higher vibration or more awakening consciousness, then I give that to everybody. You know, so it doesn't end up being two different things or a conflict, or I have to choose between myself or others. You know, the more that I, and let's just say, put it simply, the more I'm in a state of love, the more love that I'm able to give. The more I'm in a state of joy, the more joy I have to give.
Right.
Right. So that's how the two fit together perfectly, beautifully.
Yeah. What's alive in you? What, based on where we just went in our little wherever we went?
I like that question because I do think there's a sense of like, well, if you want to have fun and you want to be playful, you're not taking life seriously. You're not helping people. I don't see it. I don't see it that way.
No.
I don't think it's the case. I think that you're opening up this channel to be of tremendous benefit to people from that place.
Yeah. And from that, I'm so glad you said that, because from that place, through that awareness, through that joy that we said earlier, through what was the lovely word that Eric said, through that, what was the words we said earlier to bring it back to that? What was the words again?
Excellence.
Excellence.
And effortlessness.
And effortlessness.
Yeah.
Man, my memory's gone today. So in that place, we can contribute far more,
Great point. Yep.
far more than any sort of, let's say, more limited place where we think like, oh, this is how I need to contribute. Because I really want to meet people that are alive. I want to meet people that are playful. I want to meet people that have got a smile on their face and actually embracing what they don't know. That's another thing, right? That's what I find with playfulness.
Totally.
Is that, you know, you said it earlier as well, but when we're best at play, we're in the curiosity of what is it. Half the time we don't even know what's going to come next. Half the time we don't even know what we can do.
Like the key word there was excellence.
Right.
That's a great point, and that's the flow state, right? Excellence and effort. So you have this sense of effortlessness, but then in that state of effortlessness and play, what's coming through? Excellence.
Right.
You know, excellence. And excellence, whatever you're doing, you're writing something, you're giving a speech, you're dancing, you're playing basketball, you know, whatever you're doing, it's like this, when you're in that flow state, what comes through is excellence.
Right.
You know? And it's so beautiful because it's like, you know, I think you were both creative people. Like there's times I've written something and I'm like, who wrote that?
Right,
you know,
exactly.
It's that effortless state. Yeah. It's like, that's beautiful. I didn't even try to do that. You know, it's like, it just came through.
Right.
And that's the state we want to be in as often as we can, you know, and support each other and accessing that state.
So what was we saying? We were saying about the playfulness, but I wanted to bring in there that
flow state, excellence.
Yeah, right. So when you said the flow state and that presence, and when we look at the beauty of life, because we were doing that earlier, when we were in the sea, and this, we call it the sea, but this liquid, this elixir is lapping us, and we're enjoying that. And when we look at nature, we look at this tree right now, and I see presence, right?
Yeah.
There's just presence.
Yeah.
It's present. The ants are present. Everything's present, right? So when we can actually utilize certain techniques, tools, whatever it is, that allows us to just come back to that state of presence, that's bringing us back to a state of play, presence play, right? That's just what's coming up at the end there. I just wanted to sort of round it up in there because, you know, you talk about meditation, I talk about meditation, we talk about these different techniques that we share in order to bring us more here, right? Yeah. And even when we just eye gaze for a moment, even if we eye gaze for 5 minutes together and we just look into each other's eyes, we drop into a sense of presence. And I don't know about you, but more often than not with me, laughter comes or big smiles come, right? You're smiling and we've only, we're only doing a few seconds, right? Yeah. And because you notice, right, that smile came from, there's just a laughter all of a sudden. Because actually everything else falls away. Yeah. In play, everything falls away, right? Yep. And that's just, that's what I'm...
Everything outside this moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was just my little summary. How would you like to
I think that meditation is something that's going to be expanding, like the idea of what meditation is going to be expanding. Like to me, what we shared down at the sea today was a form of meditation. In fact, there was multiple forms of meditation there.
Of course.
There was like the first period where we were just kind of we were kind of quiet, but we were in the sea, and like that was a meditative space. And then there's a space where we were talking in the sea, which to me was also a meditative space.
Right.
You know, so it's like feeling the energy of the sky and the water and the air, and then there's some words that come through here and there, you know, but they're coming from this field of presence and aliveness. And meditation, I think as it expands, is going to be anything that brings you in the state of presence, like you said, which will include the body, will include movement, you know, can include physical activity, can include
eating.
Yeah.
Which is, and I love that you brought that in. It reminds me of Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti.
Yep.
And one of the things he always said is, which I took from some of the books I read, but that you don't sit on your meditation cushion in the morning to get up and then you're out of your meditative state, right? And many of the things he wrote about, it was not even about, it was about can every moment be a meditation?
Yep.
So that's beautiful. So I think that rounds us off beautifully in terms of, I got tingles there, it's beautiful. Can every moment be a playful meditation with the divine orchestration?
Of creation.
Yeah, of creation. And I love this. The other day, my friend sent me, Philip, if you're watching this, the orchestra, right? You're going to like this. The orchestra of life. He's a musician, but not O-R-C-H, the A-W-E, orchestra.
Nice.
Yeah. I love wordplay.
Beautiful.
So there you go, everyone. Thank you for watching. This is Simon and Bryan. I hope you enjoyed this talk. And Eric, I must say, this beautiful being that's traveling with us as always and supporting us. So yeah, let us know if this sparked anything in you, the divine play, the orchestra of life. And it's been a pleasure to just share some moments of real, you know, in-flesh connection with Bryan. And if you don't know anything else about Bryan, you can look at the links and capture his podcast and the other things that he's sharing in the world. So thank you, Bryan. Can we get a high five and a hug? Boom. Boom. Thank you so much.